What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to give you my upset alert games heading into Week 6 of the 2023 college football season. Looking back to my upset alert video from last week, we had 3 games that were upsets, officially upsets in the most likely category. 3 out of the 4 games turned out to be upsets, and it was a really exciting weekend of college football last weekend in week number 5. But now heading into officially Week 6 of the college football season, we got more big-time games coming up this weekend, and usually this is about the time where upsets usually more often happen in the middle of October and also in the middle of November. We're heading into the first weekend of October of college football, and again, how this upset alert video works, I give you 8 games total, 4 games each. 4 of the games that are most likely to be upsets, and then 4 games that are most not likely to be upsets. And in order for me to call it an upset, the spread has to be single digits. And if it's in the double-digit category, that game is not considered to be an upset. And, you know, whoever the highest-ranked team is, that team is on upset alert heading into this weekend. But also, I just do top 25 versus top 25 matchups, and then top 25 versus unranked matchups, just to make it make more sense. And again, we had a pretty good weekend last weekend. Let's see what we do here this weekend. We got a bunch of big-time games. Again, the games are kind of hard to choose from, but we're going to give you the best games that I could possibly come up with. So let's get right into it. We'll start with my most not likely upset alert category. And we'll start with this one. It's in the SEC. We got Kentucky and Georgia, top 25 matchup here. This game's at 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. Georgia favored by 14.5, and the over and under is at 48. So they're kind of predicting this one to be a low-scoring type game. Kentucky, big upset last week against Florida. That was one of my upset alert games from last week. They're undefeated going into this game. They have a pretty good defense. The running game looked really strong from last week. Ray Davis is going to have to be huge in this game for Kentucky, and they're also going to have to keep him healthy. The offensive line did their work last week, and if that offensive line could push this Georgia defense, Kentucky could very well compete in this game. Then Georgia here at number 1. They didn't look like the number 1 team from last week, but maybe Georgia is so much better this weekend. I think this is going to be a dogfight, but you know, Georgia is favored by double digits, so this game is not considered to be an upset alert type game. Georgia was on my upset alert video from last week, but they were not in the most likely category. They were in the most not likely category, but they almost got beat by Auburn in that game. So Georgia, again, did not look like the number 1 team. Maybe it's because it was their first true road game of the season and also for new quarterback Carson Beck. But both of these teams are undefeated in the SEC, and also these are the 2 undefeated teams in the SEC East. You know, Florida and Tennessee have both lost some games. Maybe this game decides the SEC East, but it's kind of hard to figure that out right now because we are not, you know, usually halfway through the college football season is usually when, you know, we find out who that front runner is. And I think this is kind of the game where who's going to be that front runner. But don't forget about Missouri. Missouri is also undefeated. So both of these teams, I mean, they're also, you know, Missouri's undefeated. You got 3 undefeated teams in the SEC East. But both of these teams, one of them is going to lose their first game of the year. So this game's at 7 o'clock Eastern time between Georgia and Kentucky, a battle in the East here. Georgia favored by 14.5, and the over and under is at 48. So let's go to the second game now. And it's in the Big Ten. We got Maryland and Ohio State. Noon game Eastern time on Fox. Ohio State favored by 19.5, and the over and under is at 57. Ohio State had a bye week this past weekend. They're coming off that win against Notre Dame a couple weeks ago on the road. Will this bye week kind of help them out and, you know, get that offense going? And also that defense has been really strong for them. Maryland is undefeated, though. You don't want to sleep on this Maryland team just yet if you're in the Big Ten East. This team is also undefeated. They have looked good in the first 5 games of the year. So Maryland, I think, is a top 25 team if they do beat Ohio State on this game this weekend. And Maryland's given Ohio State some problems in the past, so you never know. An upset could happen here, but this game's on the road for Maryland. I just don't really see them going on the road and defeating Ohio State on the road in Columbus. A very tough place to play. But this game's at noon Eastern time. Ohio State coming off a bye week. I think that bye week's going to help them out just a little bit, but this game will be on Fox. Ohio State, again, favored by double digits by 19.5. But if Maryland wins this game, the Big Ten East is definitely going to shake up. You know, Michigan's going to be that front runner, but Penn State's also in that front runner spot as well. So the Big Ten East is shaping up to be a really competitive division this year. So Maryland and Ohio State favored by 19.5. Third game, we got Michigan and Minnesota, also a Big Ten matchup. Michigan favored by 19.5. This game will be on NBC at 7:30 Eastern Time. Over and under is at 46, so they're kind of predicting this one to be a low-scoring type game, which I could very well see it playing out that way. Minnesota's got a really good defense that probably can stop this Michigan offense. But I tell you what, Michigan's offense looks so much better compared, in the first 4 weeks of the season. Or maybe I should say, like the first 4 weeks of the season, they weren't really that explosive on offense. But last week against Nebraska, they definitely proved to be explosive on the offensive side of the football. The running game was really strong. And this is kind of the Michigan team that we kind of came to see. Michigan heading on the road for the second straight week in a row. Very tough place to play at Minnesota. Minnesota's kind of had an up and down year. They only have that one win in the Big Ten, against Nebraska and everything. So yeah, Minnesota's had a rough year. But, Michigan, I don't really see an upset playing out here in this game. I think Michigan, the way they got their offense going from this past weekend, it's going to be enough, to kind of pull off a huge win here on the road at Minnesota. But if Michigan loses, that means, it's not like a very big deal for them. I mean, they could still win out in the Big Ten East. I mean, this is a Big Ten West team that they're playing. So if Michigan loses this game, it's not really a big deal for them, but it kind of drops them in the rankings. So Michigan here at number 2 in the country. This game's again at 7:30 Eastern Time on NBC. Michigan favored by 19.5. Let's go to my last game now that is most not likely to be an upset alert type game. And it's going to be Arkansas and Ole Miss. Game time for this one is at 7:30 on the SEC Network. Ole Miss favored by 11 in this game, and the over and under is at 62.5. Arkansas has been a very disappointing team so far in the first half of the college football season. They're coming off that loss to Texas A&M. They did force turnovers in that game. They had so many opportunities to win that game as well, but Arkansas just could not really finish the game pretty strong. And, a lot of people kind of predicted Arkansas to be a top 25 team this year. I did not have them in my preseason top 25, but I thought they were going to be a lot better than 2-3 in their record. Now, I think this is a good Arkansas team. I'm not saying they're really terrible, but they've just been kind of a disappointment this year so far. Ole Miss, big upset last week. That was one of the upsets that we had in our upset alert category against LSU. They had that one loss to Alabama, but I think Ole Miss definitely, looks so much better, kind of, compared to that Alabama game. I think that loss is not really bad for them now. So Ole Miss could still, maybe win out and go to the SEC championship, but this will be a very tough one here. We'll see what happens, but this will be a really good one. I mean, I think Ole Miss and Arkansas will be a shootout, but I think Ole Miss playing at home is going to get it done. It's kind of hard to tell because Arkansas is 2-3, but I think it doesn't really matter about the record. It's just the performance-wise. This team lost to BYU in the non-conference and then, of course, lost to Texas A&M. So Arkansas, if they can get a win here on the road at Oxford, it would be a huge win for them, a stepping stone into the top 25, but I still won't rank them in my top 25 because they already got 3 losses. So Arkansas and Ole Miss, SEC West Division Showdown. This game's at 7:30 Eastern Time on the SEC Network. Let's go to the games now that are most likely to be upsets. These are my games that are most not likely to be an upset alert category. And let's go to my upset alert games now heading into this weekend. And we start off with LSU and Missouri. This game's at noon Eastern Time on ESPN. LSU favored by 6.5. The over and under is at 63.5. And that's really shocking to see LSU is favored by 6.5 and not just by a field goal or maybe 2.5 points. LSU once again is on my upset alert this weekend, which I don't think this would be a big upset here because Missouri is the highest ranked team. I mean, LSU, I don't know how they're not even ranked here. I don't know how they're ranked here in this top 25 after that kind of performance against Ole Miss. I know the offense was good for them, but, the defense really played awful in that game. LSU, they've kind of had a disappointing year to this, to start this year. That kind of goes back to last year. LSU, we kind of doubted them, after that Tennessee game from last year, and then they started to win out for the rest of the year. Maybe that's the case going into this game. Maybe it's the case from last year. Maybe they go into this game against Missouri with a lot of confidence, but I tell you what, I like the confidence from this Missouri team that they're going to pull off an upset here. But I tell you what, they're 5-0 going into this game. It's not just about the overall record. It's about the, it's about just, what Missouri has done so far in the first 5 weeks of the season. This team has changed. They've been a big surprise, so far this year, and I think we're going to kind of see them play out this way in this game. But this game's at noon Eastern Time. It will be on ESPN in Columbia, Missouri. Again, Missouri not favored in this game, surprisingly. LSU favored by 6.5. Maybe it's just because of the talent and everything. LSU, I think, has more talented of a roster than Missouri, but Missouri has experience. So this is my first most likely upset alert game here coming up this weekend. Let's go to the second game. It's Louisville and Notre Dame. This game's at 7:30 Eastern Time on ABC. Notre Dame favored by 6.5. The over and under is at 53.5. Louisville's been a big surprise this year. Jeff Brom has really changed this program. Look at Louisville. They're undefeated at 5-0. They're also ranked in the top 25. They weren't really ranked a lot last year. So this is a big stepping stone for this Louisville team. If they can pull off an upset here against a top 10 team like Notre Dame, that gives them a huge momentum going into the ACC, this is not a conference game for Louisville, but gives them a head of steam going into the rest of the year. And their schedule, again, Louisville has an easy schedule this year. And, in my offseason predictions, I did predict Louisville has the easiest schedule in all college football, and that's kind of proved to me, that kind of proves that out as to, so far, Louisville has the easiest schedule and everything, but Louisville, I feel like they're back to where they used to be, that high-powered program. I think, we have to see it right here against Notre Dame, though. Notre Dame, they had that loss to Ohio State a couple weeks ago, but they bounced back after that win against Duke. That was a very close game. Notre Dame about got upset in that game, and, also it was going to ruin their playoff hopes. But I tell you what, Notre Dame and Louisville, big-time game here in a non-conference matchup. This game's at 7:30 Eastern Time. I'd say the Louisville crowd will be fired up for this game. I think it will be a sellout crowd as well in this game. But this game's on ABC. Notre Dame, again, favored by 6.5, and the over and under is at 53.5. Again, Louisville undefeated going into this game. This is my second game that is most likely to be an upset. Let's go to the third game now. It's also in the SEC. We got Alabama and Texas A&M, 3:30 Eastern Time on CBS. Alabama favored by 2.5, and the over and under is at 49. Alabama, they look better. They look kind of better after that win against Ole Miss. They're starting to get into momentum after that win against Mississippi State this past weekend. And, this is kind of a different Alabama team when they have Jalen Monroe at quarterback. And, when you kind of put them in here, with his team, I think Alabama is definitely going to have a chance to win out for the rest of the year when Jalen Monroe is at quarterback. He can use his legs. He can also throw the football really good down the field. He's got wide receivers that can help him out. The running game's been so much better for Alabama, it seems like, ever since the Ole Miss game and everything. A lot of people doubted this Alabama team after the South Florida game. I did not give up on Alabama, but, it just seems like they were not in the right place at the right time in that South Florida game. They had some quarterback issues, but with Jalen Monroe back at quarterback for them, they definitely look like a really good team this year, and that's really been the factor for them, is that Jalen Monroe has been a good quarterback for them. Texas A&M, on the other hand, they pulled off an upset before against Alabama a couple years ago. Could they do that again this year? I mean, this is the place where they did it. They pulled off an upset here a couple years ago. Could that happen this year? I tell you what, though, the way that Alabama has been playing, both of these teams are pretty similar. They both have non-conference losses to, different conference teams. Texas A&M has a loss to Miami in Week 2, and then Alabama has a loss to Texas in Week 2. So we're going to find out who the better team is in this one, and this is also going to probably, not decide the SEC West because you still got Ole Miss in there. I mean, the SEC West is definitely a wide-open division this year. So Alabama and Texas A&M, 3:30 Eastern Time on CBS. Not sure if College Game Day is going to this game either. So let's get right into the last game here that is most likely to be an upset alert type game. It's probably one of the biggest biggest games of the weekend heading into this weekend, and that's going to be the rivalry between Oklahoma and Texas. This game's at noon Eastern Time on ABC. Texas favored by 6. And the over and under is at 60.5. Done a game preview / game prediction on this game yesterday. And I did predict Texas to come out with a win because I just do trust Texas's defense at the end of the day. And I also said that a turnover was probably going to change the game as well. I mean, Oklahoma's got a great offense. They can score points in this game. Texas also has a great offense, so we're going to probably see a lot of scoring in this game. But Texas, I've been very impressed with them, what they have done this year. Texas, I think, has some good wins on their, resume and everything. They got Alabama. They got that win over Alabama. Oklahoma hasn't really played anybody that tough. You know, they had that game against Cincinnati that was tough for them, but Cincinnati is not a really good team. And then they had Iowa State, which Iowa State is not a really good team either. But Texas, I feel like they have played a tougher schedule than Oklahoma, but Oklahoma hasn't really played anybody that tough. But they'll get their chance this weekend. And this game kind of decides who's that front runner in the Big 12. So Oklahoma and Texas here. This game's at noon Eastern time on ABC. And also, this will be the last time that we'll see Texas and Oklahoma here in the Big 12 Conference, going at it here in the rivalry. So looking forward to this game. I think this is the biggest game of the weekend here in week number 6. Two undefeated teams. And again, Texas favored by 6 in this game, and the over and under is at 60.5. So those are my upset alert games heading into week 6 of the 2023 college football season. Let me guys know what you think about these upset alert games. Do you see any upsets happening this weekend? And we got a big weekend. This is another big weekend of college football. We'll see what happens with all these games when they come, to play here this weekend. Give me your thoughts on these upset alert games down in the comments below, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports channel.